study like sports psychology, and like one of the key components of it is the best athletes have a short-term memory, right? They have a short-term memory. So they make a mistake, they mess up, and they forget about it. And one of the most amazing sports feats I've ever seen in my life was I was in high school. There was this unbelievable golf player, and I was like trying to get good at golf. I don't play anymore, but I used to caddy. But I was at the range, and there was this, our high school, star was at the range, and like the other side of the range is probably, I don't know, at least 250 yards away. And like I was friends with him, and he's like, Adam, just listen with your ears. And he's like, there's a box there, and it was like a sprinkler box, okay? And the sprinkler box is probably like 2 feet. This is like 250 yards away. He hits a shot. 5 seconds later, you hear, boom, he nails it. Like the most unbelievable thing. Like, it's just ridiculous. And like, I'm like, how are you not going to go pro? And he's like, the difference between me and pros is like the mind game. It's like, can you recover? Can you get back in the game? Can you not let one mistake, one bad shot mess you up? And he went on to play in college, and he played on this junior tour. He never made, the pro tour. But what he did was just ridiculous. But what's fascinating is just how many ridiculous athletes there are, and the difference is their mental component, their mental mind, their makeup, right? And he always told me, like, it's all about short-term memory. You cannot let that mess you up. And I think about that a lot, right? We short-term memory. That's it. You indulge. You're not happy with it. Whatever happened, move on. Next. That's it. Last night, I went to a Mets game. The Mets won 11-9 versus the White Sox. It was a fun game. I went with a bunch of friends, and I decided to go with the no plan. And I thought it would be helpful for us to talk about kind of my thought processes and kind of how I recover from a night out with friends. Because I know for many of us, we are on this kind of all or nothing train. And when we're on that train, it always leads to nothing. So that is what we're going to dive into today.
That's a pretty risky choice, the no plan. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of just be spontaneous. I wanted to just go with the flow, eat what my friends were eating. And I chose that. It was a conscious choice. I'm happy with the choice. I felt good about it at the time. And yeah, that was important to me.
All right, so cool. We get that. There's a lot of thought and intention there. So how did it turn out?
So what I ate was delicious. I had this like porchetta sandwich with like some potato chips. It was really good. And I had a beer. It was fun. And I felt it was fun during it. And, afterwards it's like, all right, I think the slippery slope many of us get on, and I used to get on this all the time, was, I'm kind of climbing up to the top of this water slide, or I'm even on the water slide. And then you have a choice of either going down the water slide or getting off. And what I mean by that is going down the water slide is you're going to say, you know what, screw it. I already indulged. I already broke the seal. I already am not perfect. I'm going to eat whatever I want for the rest of the day, or sometimes even the rest of the week, or sometimes even the rest of the month, or sometimes, as I've spoken to someone recently, for the next 10 years. So the idea is to get back on track right away.
Okay. That's a lot to kind of think through. First of all, can I just ask you, like, if you go into all or nothing mode, is it because you've perceived you've done something wrong?
So I am a recovering perfectionist. And I think it's just this desire to be perfect. But what I've learned also, it's an escape. And the escape is sticking with it while being less than comfortable, or less than perfect, I should say. And that is the work for recovering perfectionists, or people who want to become a recovering perfectionist, is learning how to stick with it while being less than perfect. And of course, rationally, we know it's impossible to be perfect, right? And again, it's just this kind of it's this rationalization we come up with so we can do the easiest thing of all, which is do nothing, versus stick with it while being less than perfect.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. So let's back up a second. Now, you said, obviously, you knew you were going to the game. You proactively and intentionally chose to indulge, and your version of that planned indulgence was the no plan. Is that where your thought processes and your intentions and your planning stopped?
No. So there's a lot that goes on, and perhaps at this point it's habitual, to get right back on the plan, so to speak, right? We want to get right back in the game, so to speak.
Okay. All right. So that was part of you going like, hey, I'm going to the game. I'm going to be spontaneous tonight, but I'm also going to make sure I get right back to it afterwards. And here's what that looks like. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think you and I were talking for just a minute before we turned on the cameras. And in my mind, there's two ways to do that, right? The recovery is either very intentional, like, okay, when I get home, perhaps in your scenario, and maybe you should just tell us what you did, but like, I'm going to drink a bunch of water, I'm going to wash up, and I'm just going to take myself right to bed so that I can get up the next morning and pick up where I left off. Or, as I was discussing with you, we sort of established these habits and routine that become like a magnet, right? That we just sort of impulsively gravitate toward no matter how far from home we've gotten. So which is it for you? And in this scenario, what did you do?
Yeah. So I've practiced, and it's become habitual to just get back into my routine, right? So there was a scenario in the past where I'd come home and maybe I would not feel so great, and all the snacks that my kids have that maybe aren't even that good but are sometimes tempting, you open them up, you eat some of those, and you just kind of go down this whole path. Or, and the new path is get home, have some water, brush my teeth, and be done. Kind of close the kitchen, so to speak, cleanse my palate, and be done for the night.
Okay, so that's what you did last night?
Yes.
That's awesome. And today, how did you feel like getting up?
So maybe it's just because this is what I do, this is my life's work, but there's no doubt, like, when I eat nutritiously, I just feel better in the morning, the day after. And when I don't, I feel a little sluggish. So, and maybe at this point it's just like this conditioning, but I didn't feel great this morning. But no matter what, like, my go-to is after I kind of go out at night, my first thing I always try to do is work out. Just get some exercise and get some movement in. And that is my go-to no matter what happened the night before, no matter what I ate the night before. I'm exercising, I'm getting some movement in, I'm breaking a sweat.
Okay, so that's kind of like your tether. And we were talking about this. I love to help people develop, like, what is your tether, right? No matter what's happened the day before, the night before, I really think the morning, and I have clients say to me all the time, like, I don't know how many fresh starts I can have. I'm like, you get 1,000,000. You get as many fresh starts as you want, and you better have your tether figured out so that that fresh start is waiting for you no matter what. So it sounds like exercise is your tether.
It is. And, for me, one of the things I try to do is think greater than I feel. So in that moment before I started exercising, I did not feel great, but I knew, 45 minutes to 60 minutes later, I would feel great. And I do. And I felt, I feel just, we're back in the game. And not that I was ever out of the game, but like you said, it's my tether. It brings me back. It's kind of like an adult version of a blankie or a little pillow or whatever it is, right?
Yes, I love it. I love it. You with your little exercise blankie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I think you brought up another really good point. You were never out of the game because actually, there's no game. This is just your life. This is your routine. And sometimes we stray, to see something different, to be a little spontaneous, but you're still always moving forward. You're never out of the game.
Right.
Right?
I think the only game is never turn the game off, or never, like, you're never out of the game. Like, once you, like, the game's over, I'm quitting, or I'm waiting until I can start back up and be perfect, then you've lost the game, so to speak.
Right. Right. Or, another way we could put that is there is no wagon.
Right. Exactly.
This is an on and off. There's no wagon here.
Right. And, one of the things, I'll just say one of the things I've learned about our clients and myself, and I mean, there's just no doubt, our most successful clients are really, really, really good at getting right back on track right away, right? And it's not a question of if we're going to fall off track, whatever that even means. It's only a question of how quickly you recover, right? So is it either going to be right away, tomorrow morning, or is it going to be, next week, etc., right? Like you have that choice. We have that choice. We can either go down that slippery water slide, or we can get back off and go back the other way and make a U-turn.
Yes. And the sooner the better.
Yes.
The sooner the better. And by the way, you never run out of recovery. Like there's never a point at which this big hand comes down and says, whoa, you've had too many recoveries. No more recoveries for you.
Right.
So definitely take advantage of just getting back to it. Just go right back to what feels best and think greater than you feel. I love that. I love that idea. And it's that ability to kind of project into the future. Like, okay, once I kind of push through this feeling, I know what I'm going to get on the other side.
Right. And we always feel powerful after doing something uncomfortable, right? So, for some people, this might make no sense, but I think for any perfectionist or recovering perfectionist, it makes a lot of sense. It's like, it's very easy to kind of just go down the slope of, well, I messed up, and that's comfortable to just stop. And it's uncomfortable to push forward when you feel that, angst or whatever it is. And, once you make that recovery and you get back in the game, or you exercise or whatever it is that you're tethered, you feel powerful, you feel great. And it's like, all right, here we are, we're right back. And something that, also helps is like, try to think of this as a choice by choice journey, not a day by day journey, right? So let's say you eat, 5 times a day, right? And you're eating 7 times a week, that's 35. So it's 70, it's 140. Like, let's just say you're making 140 food choices a month. If you allow yourself to indulge or be spontaneous for a few of them, we're not going to ruin the other 130 choices, right? And I think it's a little easier to think about it as a choice by choice journey versus a day by day journey. Because when you have a choice by choice journey, of course there's going to be some blips. Of course there's going to be some indulgences, and you just get right back on.
Yeah. I actually just had that conversation this morning with a client. I was like, all right, we're just going to see each meal as kind of an isolated event. That color doesn't get to spill over into the next meal, right? We're not coloring with just one red crayon here. We're coloring with all the crayons. So don't let one choice impact all the other choices you get to make. And by the way, I just want to interject. I'm really impressed with your math skills.
Thank you. So one of the things that I find fascinating is like, I study like sports psychology, and like one of the key components of it is the best athletes have a short-term memory, right? They have a short-term memory. So they make a mistake, they mess up, and they forget about it. And one of the most amazing sports feats I've ever seen in my life was I was in high school. There was this unbelievable golf player, and I was like trying to get good at golf. I don't play anymore, but I used to caddy. But I was at the range, and there was this, our high school, star was at the range, and like the other side of the range is probably, at least 250 yards away. And like I was friends with him, and he's like, Adam, just listen with your ears. And he's like, there's a box there, and it was like a sprinkler box, okay? And the sprinkler box is probably like 2 feet. This is like 250 yards away. He hits a shot. 5 seconds later, you hear, boom, he nails it. Like the most unbelievable thing. Like, it's just ridiculous. And like, I'm like, how are you not going to go pro? And he's like, the difference between me and pros is like the mind game. It's like, can you recover? Can you get back in the game? Can you not let one mistake, one bad shot mess you up? And he went on to play in college, and he played on this junior tour. He never made, the pro tour. But like, what he did was just ridiculous. But what's fascinating is just how many ridiculous athletes there are, and the difference is their mental component, their mental mind, their makeup, right? And he always told me, like, it's all about short-term memory. You cannot let that mess you up. And I think about that a lot, right? We short-term memory. That's it. You indulge. You're not happy with it. Whatever happened, move on. Next. That's it.
Like you've said from the beginning, it has more to do with what goes on between the ears.
Yes. So, I think another thing also is just, that helps me and, I try to encourage others to think about is like this idea of fact or fiction, right? The fact is, I ate some food, I had a beer, like no big deal. That's the fact. The fiction is everything else that I might invent or create in my head. Oh, I should have not eaten that, or I should have stuck to my plan, or I should have, like that's all fiction. That's all the stories that you tell yourself. The fact is, you ate some food and that's it. No big deal, right? As you said, what was the question? Did you do anything wrong? No, I ate some food.
Yeah. Yeah. We didn't break any rules. There are no rules. It's food.
Right.
Yeah.
So, to me, it's all about the recovery. Again, it's not a question of if you're going to fall off track. It's only a question of how quickly you recover. And as we talked about in a prior video, like the summer is filled with challenges. It's filled with all sorts of, barbecues and parties and all sorts of stuff. And like, I choose to view it as a challenge and as a way to get better because I know in the past it would throw me off. Right now it's like, all right, no big deal. I went out or I went to a barbecue or I had some ice cream with my kids spontaneously. Great. Let's get back on it. Right. Let's just keep going. And to me, like that's it's fun. Like it's just, I'm not letting go of the rope, so to speak.
Right. You got to get out of the way and get on with it.
Yes. So, don't beat yourself up. Think of it as an opportunity to get better because, again, I promise you, the most successful clients, we all indulge. This is my life. I indulge. Of course we indulge. We're not robots. We just get back on track right away. And, I even hate almost using those words because it's like we're never getting off track. It's the part of life is enjoying food. But I think you know what I mean. You're getting back on track right away.
Yep, we got it. We know what you mean.
Cool.
All right. Anything else?
I think that's it. I think, and obviously, listen, I'm biased, but I do believe that's where a coach and accountability come into play. I work with a coach, as you know, it's like, I texted her. It's like, all right, I'm committing to a workout first thing. Like, this is what I'm doing. Having someone hold you accountable can also help you get out of your head, help you have some external accountability. Obviously, that helps tremendously, as we know. So I just think that that's worth adding because sometimes, no matter how good you are or whatever it is, you could get in your own way, and having that external accountability can really make a difference as well.
Absolutely. All right, Adam. Well, thanks for giving us a glimpse into the day in the life. It's very helpful.
You're welcome. I apologize if I talked really fast. I'm all excited. I'm back feeling energized and excited, though. And that's the idea. If you saw me before I worked out, you'd be like, oh, my God, what a slug. This guy has no energy. So I'm back.
Scrape him up off the floor.
Exactly.
Love it.
All
right, guys. Well, if you have any questions for Adam, anything you want to share with us, we always love hearing from you. And take good care, recover fast. We'll see you soon.
And the one there's hopefully a lot of takeaways, but the one thing I want you to really think about is what is your tether? What is your Huggy? What is your blankie? Think about that because having that go-to thing, that's a game changer.
Definitely. All right. Take care, guys.